Wow, what a news day. What a news day just 24 hours ago. And really, it's continuing on around the Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we get to that, though, we did have our first WPIL player playing in the NBA Finals this past year since 1974, and Cam Johnson, unfortunately, coming up just short as the Suns lose Game 6 to the Milwaukee Bucks last night. Milwaukee's first NBA title since 1971, and really the first for the city because the Packers don't play in Milwaukee. So first four officially for Milwaukee since 1971. But just tip of our cap to Cam Johnson, nonetheless, a great series, hit big shots even in that game. So his career certainly ascending as he is that WPIL Our Lady of Sacred Heart Pitt. Then, of course, went to North Carolina product before getting to the NBA. But this is going to be a show that will be focused, headlined, and focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers and the news of the day, week, as we open up camp. This is Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now, and, of course, Steelers Now. Mic'd Up is presented by Martin Lawn Services at 412-849-5894. He's Mike Vukovcan. I'm Mike Asti, and we're going to get into things here, Mike. It's hard to keep up. You got to take a breath, really. It helped the site. We're churning. we once again, thank you to all the people reading. We're hitting some milestones based on all this news, and it went from Dwayne Haskins' drama to now a lot of speculation on the roster. He's kind of got lucky. We talked about him a lot on our last show. He's now under the radar a little bit. This kind of clouded all the conversation around Dwayne Haskins and that issue, as there have now been rumors about Steven Nelson potentially rejoining the Steelers. He tweeted that his news could come today, and that was yesterday or tomorrow. So we're obviously recording a morning show here. So who knows when that news will come, potentially later on today here on Wednesday, or who knows? He's still out there as a free agent. I think many would have thought he would have been signed already. Who knows what he's asking, but also surprising at the time to get rid of him and release him when the Steelers did. Back in April, that was a cap move. The cap better now. Many other reports and speculation going on, people tweeting they know some things happening with the Steelers. Who knows if they really do, but it caused a lot of frenzy over the last day or so, to say the least. And there's even some people thinking that maybe they're going to drop the bomb of announcing the extension of TJ Watt. So, Mike, just in general, since we at this time don't know what the news is going to be, certainly that could involve Steven Nelson. What was the biggest takeaway for you from the last day or so of just a hornet's nest of Steelers news and speculation and rumors?
Well, I think it's Steven Nelson. I think that's potentially huge news for the Steelers, for the all-around team. When they got rid of him, or he left, or they got rid of him, we actually, I don't remember which show it was, but I remember right after, a few weeks after it happened, we brought up the fact that he wasn't signed yet.
Right.
I don't think it was crazy to say that if you're not signed and you're a marquee free agent, if you consider yourself a marquee free agent, you're still 3-4 weeks out and haven't signed yet, you're not a marquee free agent.
Well,
could be.
That
there was a chance that I thought that the Steelers could bring him back, depending on the money and familiarity and Mike Tomlin,
right.
And that could happen. And if they are able to re-sign Steven Nelson, I think it puts the Steelers defense back right. I don't know that they're going to miss a beat from last year, honestly.
It's not a small deal. And then you couple in the Melvin Ingram signing, which adds depth to the linebacker position. And he might not even have to do all that much. If Highsmith and TJ Watt give you what you expect and Highsmith gets potential and they're healthy, you don't have to rely on Melvin Ingram, but that's a fantastic signing.
And
again, a low-risk high reward for a year.
Yeah. And then you got Devin Bush.
Right, and he's coming back healthy. He missed most of last year.
I think this
Mike Hilton gone, but that's the only real loss.
Yeah, I think potentially this defense could be as good as last year. And if that's the case, I'm not like everyone else. I'm in the minority. I think that's the way I always. I'm not sure if I got that from. I think I got that from John Staggerwald, to always take the other opinion. Okay. But I really think that
someone has to.
Yes. I really think that I don't think Ben is going to be as bad as everyone, or most people, I shouldn't say everyone, most people believe he's going to be. And if that's the case, I think the Steelers could be this gloom and doom that they're going to be bad. This Steven Nelson, because I don't like their secondary right now. I don't think they have enough depth. I don't think they have enough talent. However, you bring Steven Nelson back, I think that could be huge for the Steelers defense overall.
Yeah, and I also think it's about depth and also about the fact that currently speaking, because of the lack of depth, the Steelers would have to play a few people in kind of positions that wouldn't really put them in the position to succeed. Cam Sutton would potentially be in a position that wouldn't be where he necessarily excel. Joe Hayden, currently, as we're speaking, would be heavily relied on, and he is getting older. He's been injury prone. He never plays a full year. He's good when in there. He does have some big plays year after year, but they basically need him to play every game and act like he's in his prime 5 years ago. So by bringing back in Steven Nelson, that would fill the gaps, would put Cam Sutton back where he's meant to be. It would take pressure off Joe Hayden that if he would get hurt or miss a few weeks or need taken out for whatever reason, that you'd have Steven Nelson to go right back in there. And Steven Nelson, I will also say this, last year was not as good of a year as 2 years ago. He did dip in tackles. He didn't dominate as much as last year. Still a good season. I think people hate on him too much. Still a good season. But he was a little bit more under the radar last year than 2 years ago, and certainly with the Chiefs. But he's still very, very good. It adds depth. They still very much need him. And because it's lingered so long, I imagine this price tag is not going to be breaking the bank. They're obviously not going to be bringing out the Brinks truck for somebody a day before camp. So should be friendly to the Steelers. The only thing I wonder is if he can humble himself. I feel like if he doesn't sign back with the Steelers, despite the connections, players looking like they're alluding to wanting him back, still the friendly connection there amongst the players, it's probably because his ego doesn't allow him to do that. It would be a little bit of put your tail between your legs. He'd hear that on Twitter all year that you clearly priced yourself out and now you're coming back because you couldn't get anything. So if his ego can take it, I
also think, though, that if he does come back here, it'll be a 1 year deal. And he'll know he's on audition all year. There's not going to be any he's going to be motivated. He's going to try to play his ass off in order to get a contract for next season. So I wouldn't have any problems with that. I think the veterans on the team, I think they'll all I think that'll be a story for a couple of days. And then after that, it'll be talking about the Steelers could have done a lot worse than bringing back somebody in the secondary like Steven Nelson. And, when you look at it, all of this is happening. The guys that they've been able to, we'll see who they eventually all bring in before the start of camp here. But a lot of this has to do with the fact that David DeCastro was gone. These moves.
Right. And that caused a lot of hoopla initially. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it caused hoopla, but it also is going to allow them to bring back a lot of players because the cap space that was created.
Yeah, there was a method to that madness. It appears there was a method to that madness. As much as people were upset at the time, that allowed them to sign Melvin Ingram, potentially bring back Steven Nelson, and even a few other moves. So, yeah, that's not a small deal whatsoever. Do you feel more comfortable about the Steelers in terms of, because you're mentioning that they're not going to be really bad. I don't think they're going to be really bad either. I'm still kind of leaning towards 9-10 wins. I still don't think this is a championship team. I do think that they certainly are a playoff team with the extra spot. If they get lucky on a few games, they could win a division potentially if the Browns would falter, Ravens, etc. It's still going to be a very difficult schedule. I still have question marks about a deep playoff run because the last few years, certainly last year, they did get worse down the stretch, in particular Ben. A lot of this is going to hinge on the offense, a new system, Matt Canada, great being there, but can Ben adjust? Can he play well all year? Can he take care of the football? Or do they have an offensive line that's strong enough to protect the running back? Do they have enough depth there? Because there's also been rumors of now trading Benny Snell for future draft picks with the Rams. You need to replace Cam Akers. We touched on that on Steelers now. And that wouldn't hurt the team because Anthony McFarland, et cetera, are ahead of Snell on the depth chart. But they wouldn't be able to handle injuries as much if, say, they would do that. And the offensive line is a question. So the offense is my question. But adding Melvin Ingram, because we don't know about Steven Nelson, but adding Melvin Ingram as depth to the linebacker position, does this do anything for you in terms of your thoughts for the team? You say they're going to be good, but could that depth move? Could this team potentially catch lightning in a bottle and actually be a championship caliber team? Are you willing to go that far yet?
No.
Okay.
When I say good, I'm just talking about I think they potentially could contend for the division.
Right.
And then it's all about matchups. It's all about health. I can't look ahead to January, but all I'm saying is that
Right.
I don't think they're going to be the, if you see all the, the prognosticators, the, all the experts on ESPN and everyone else, they predict gloom and doom for the Steelers, worst team in the division. Ben's the worst quarterback. They're done, all that stuff. And I think half that's done just because they know how popular the Steelers are, and they're going to create some sort of
it works
rise and get people talking like we are right now. But I think the Steelers can be, anytime you can say that you're a double-digit win team in the NFL, I think that's an accomplishment with the parity that's out there. There's very few teams that are like the Chiefs or somebody that are going to win 13, 14 games. If you win double digits, I think it puts you in position, and then it's all about health and matchups come January. And health, I think that's the biggest thing for the Steelers this season. If Ben is healthy, if Melvin Ingram and Turner on the offensive line, if those guys are healthy and what they were a couple years ago, then the Steelers could be just as good as anybody in the division.
And they also went from having, if they bring Steven Nelson back, of course, but even without him based on the linebacker position, that would then be the question mark at secondary. But they went from not being a deep team, a team that couldn't handle injuries defensively as well, to now kind of having some depth. Again, they almost have a surplus at running back right now. You mentioned Devin Bush returning, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Melvin Ingram there, inside, outside. They now have some depth at the linebacker position. As long as they still can get healthy enough, say around the defensive line, someone like Cam Hayward doesn't fall off a cliff, and I don't think he will. The question marks go back to the offense again. But with camp report day happening, and we're now getting into training camp, it's finally here. All the drama, the calm before the storm is over. We're now at the storm, hopefully not an actual storm for the team, and they actually can have some nice weather to have fans see them at Heinz Field rather than inside at the UPMC Southside facility. Got to get another one of those COVID tests. I'm going to get down there soon. But what are you looking for at camp in particular, I guess, as we kind of, close up shop here? Because obviously we're going to be talking about this all weeks long about what the Steelers can do. But there's rumors, there's thoughts, there's a lot people are speculating. But what are you actually looking for on the field at camp?
I'm going to be anxious to see. Normally I don't watch a ton of the preseason games because it bores the hell out of me. But I think the Steelers defense is going to be really good again. All my eyes are going to be in the offense because I think there's storylines at every position in the offensive line or every position in the offense. The offensive line, I think the Steelers have tremendous depth at wide receiver. We'll see if the drops go away, which hopefully they do. I think for the first time, the Steelers tight end position could be a strength. And then, of course, all the eyes are going to be on running back with Harris and who could be his backup. No James Conner here anymore. We'll see, eventually who leaves camp because I think they have a lot of guys back there that maybe are similar type players. As you alluded to a little bit earlier, somebody could potentially be a trade guy. And then, of course, quarterback. Every time somebody goes out there, before it was, now it's, all right, I'm going to watch Mason Rudolph here because those guys legitimately they're battling they're battling for everything, Dobbs included, Haskins. So I think it's going to be a really fun as far as when you get into games. I can't believe it. The games are going to be 2 weeks away here. It's crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah,
it's crazy. But I'm really going to be looking forward to, and then of course Matt Canada. I think you could point to anything on offense as a storyline because there's legitimately something interesting to watch with every position of the Steelers, including the coaching staff. What's Matt Canada? What's his wrinkles going to be as far as the offense goes? I think it's very interesting, and it'll definitely be a lot to talk about for us.
Yeah, and yeah, the Steelers definitely never disappoint in terms of topics for talk radio and coverage, to say the least. And
Hey, Mike, I
this
have a
training,
question for you.
sure, go ahead.
With this new offense,
Yeah,
normally in training camp, when you're in the games, it's vanilla. And
yeah.
they don't want somebody. Do you believe with Matt Canada? Do you think they're going to be like that, or are they going to come out and, you know what I mean? Is it
You
going to
mean like
be
right away, like not giving it all away
no?
right away?
Yeah, in all the games, are we going to basically?
Oh,
Are we going to see anything in games? Are they going to hold it just to practice, or what? I'm curious as to how they're going to, play that out.
yeah, you mean the preseason?
Yeah, preseason. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I wouldn't imagine they're going to uncover too much. That's an interesting point. And also in practice, they do have the cover of and being there. And I imagine they're going to be really tight on this if they are offering any of that, where they're not going to allow media to be shooting video and throwing things up at certain times. I've been out there where you get the camera ready and then somebody taps you in the shoulder, say, this isn't
Yeah.
time to be filming. Take a break for 10 minutes. So that might be time where Matt Canada is showing something. Now, of course, we're still going to have video there in Pittsburgh Sports Live, but there might be times where I would imagine more in camp, maybe. It also may depend on how it's going in camp, potentially, if they're learning those plays well, if things are going well. It's interesting discussion because obviously you don't want to show your cards too much, and sometimes they don't even show things early in a season because they're worried about that. But it's hard. They also say this, and it's very hard to get those plays fully worked out just in camp if you don't try them in a game.
Right.
So they might have to try something in preseason or early in a season, depending on how the game's going, if they're up, down, or big up, so if they have wiggle room. Because if you don't try it during a game, then yeah, you don't really know. Everyone looks better in shorts or even pads in practice when your defense is probably not going to play as hard to try to kill someone as they would as the opponent may do during a game. So that's an interesting. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. Honestly, I don't know. I would imagine they're not going to obviously throw out too much, but this will be a lot of work for the PR staff to make sure nothing is thrown out there and is uncovered, because this training camp, I was going to say, is potentially the most important for the Steelers in decades. I mean, this isn't just even about this year. This is about deciding who potentially could be the quarterback after Ben, whether they would need to go back in the draft if neither one of those guys work out. Obviously, there's drama off the field to still be looking at. And a lot of players on the defense and offense that are veterans, but also very, very young, that it's going to determine who's going to be the face of this franchise, who's going to be players that are going to be there for the next decade. Is Devin Bush able to get healthy and get back to what he was and expected to be? And if somehow not, that screws up your draft from years ago. We expect him to be fine. But yeah, I think two things I'm mostly looking at is how Matt Canada's offense is working out, how Ben is handling that offense, which maybe we're not going to see as much as everyone else, because obviously the quarterback at his age is going to be coddled a little bit. Certainly, if it's not working well, they're basically just not going to show much with him. So we may not see tons to figure that out right now. But how Ben is handling the offense, Najee, I'm assuming, is going to look really, really good at camp, at preseason. Will that carry on in the regular season with that offensive line being so porous? How does the offensive line look? It's hard to tell in drills, but that's going to be a major thing to look at. And then where does Juju play? How do the receivers shake out? Because we know Juju wants to go outside. Certainly sounds like Canada prefers him inside, and they're going to throw everybody all around the field in terms of receivers. How does that look? Do we see a lot of 2 tight end sets? Is that something that they keep close to the vest as well? Because they certainly could do that with Freiermuth and now Eric Ebron. Tons of question marks at camp, really. And we might not even have most of those answered because, as you mentioned, they may not want to give those answers right now. But it is just incredible that we're almost at the preseason. And then in the middle of this, the Steelers also, this might be the only negative, as cool as this is to cover. I'm going to be there. And then for the fans, I don't know if the Hall of Fame game and having that disrupt things in camp might be a little bit of a negative, maybe an annoyance for coaches, just because you're going to get in the swing of things. You have a lot of young players, new system, then stops for a week. If they're not involved, you don't know what they're doing. So then you have that week break. Maybe they want the continuity of keep on going, but that'll be cool as well. And of course, a lot of Steelers from this past year and even the year earlier with COVID involved with Cowher, Troy Polamalu, Alan Faneca, Donnie Shell, etc. So a lot going on this preseason
fun.
for the Steelers. Yeah, they're really, there's reason to talk about them even nationally, as they always manage to get in there. So we will continue the coverage over there of Steelers now, of course, as training camp gets underway, then into the Hall of Fame weekend, and then into the preseason and, of course, regular season and beyond. Find the videos of what goes on there at training camp, including the camp report, and see who reports, and they drive any weird trucks to, I guess, to the North Shore. It might not be as cool as it was St. Vincent, probably. With Vince Williams gone too, he showed up as Stone Cold all the time. That might not that might not happen.
You're right. No St. Vincent. So that means
no St. Vincent.
You're not going to get access to the annual truck videos. So
I don't know if Vince Williams is going to show up with the Stone Cold truck or not there. But nonetheless, we'll have it all there. Of course, Steelers Now and Pittsburgh Sports Live. Subscribe and head over to the site and follow, of course, on social. That's Mike Vukovcan. I'm Mike Asti. Again, keep it here. And the Steeler news that's been going on, that's been in the rumor mill, that's been in the speculation. Maybe we'll have answers next show, because once again, these players throwing out these cryptic tweets. If I was a player, I think I would just throw a cryptic tweet just to be a jerk, because you throw a tweet out there and people read into it. You could say K and people are going to, what is he saying K to? What is he saying yes to? But maybe we'll have the Steven Nelson news. He did say tomorrow, which is today, is the longest we'd have to wait. So we will see. And I'd love to hear where he goes, if not the Steelers, because national insiders, etc., it's kind of always been speculated he would return to the Steelers if he lingered out this long. So where does he go if he does not go to the Steelers? And do fans take that as spurning the Steelers? I could certainly imagine at this point it'll be taken one way by the fans if he doesn't return. Again, Mike Vukovcan, Mike Asti, that'll do it for this Hump Day edition of the show. Steelers news. Just